Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are here in the Cherokee Batting Range podcast studio getting ready to record this week's edition of Coach Prep. We got a really good show lined up for you this week. We're going to talk about the skill of running and why it's undervalued and underpracticed. Before we do that, let's talk about our sponsors. First, the Anderson Bat Company. Everything Fast Pitch is very proud to have Anderson Bat Company as our presenting sponsor. Anderson Bat Company is using the latest and greatest bat technology to corner the market in the fast pitch world. They have the -9 Rocket Tech, the -10 Carbon, and the -11 Carbon Light. Anderson Bat Company is using this technology to put a high-performing bat in the hands of hitters that really know the difference between a good bat and a great bat. We're also working with Anderson to provide a discount for all of our listeners. Go to the Anderson Bat Company website and order your bats. Use the EFP20 discount, which is for everything fast pitch, and you'll get a 20% discount. And again, make sure you take advantage of that EFP20. It's a great way for you to save that additional 20% and goes a long way towards supporting the podcast. We also want you to become a patron. Go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. It's $5, $10, or $20 a month. Again, we've got a great group of patrons that have been supporting us for a long time. We really do appreciate them, but we would love to see some more people jumping on board. If you're a longtime listener or if you're brand new, if you see value in what we're doing, we would love for you to come on board as a patron. Again, go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. So, Don, Stan had another really good idea this week. One of the skills that's a huge part of a lot of what we do when we play softball is running. And not just running the bases, not going first to third, not accelerating through the turns, not any of that kind of stuff, but just the actual skill of running faster, more efficiently, more athletically. Thoughts?
I think that's a super topic for us because I do feel like it's undervalued. And I think that how many times have we seen somebody being bang out at first base or at any base for all that matters, or somebody not quite getting to a ball, just off the end of their glove. When we're not quite getting there, I think there's probably ways that we could have helped coach them a little bit better to possibly have had the opposite outcome, made the catch or been safe at first. To put more value on that in practice, I think might pay off huge dividends for us on game day. And that's kind of our goal. And,
right.
Why not do it better if we can?
Yeah, well, one of the things, and this again is, going way back, when I was coaching at Tennessee Tech, we were not in a position, we didn't have the budget to have like a full-time conditioning coach. We didn't have a full-time, person that worked on those kinds of things. And I met a guy in the community that was really, had been a track athlete and was doing a lot with individual training and lessons for athletes, trying to help them learn to run better. And I went to a couple of his sessions and saw what he was doing. And I thought, dang, that's, really smart, really good.
So we could do that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that was really kind of crazy is because then I went back to my administration and I wanted to hire him. I was just going to pay it out of, softball fundraising money. I didn't expect them to come up with that. I was just going to raise a little bit more money and hire him to come out, 3-4 times a season to, to work with the team. And my administration's point was, I think, which leads us to the point of why this is such a screwed up topic, such a screwed up area, is their response was, it's running. Everybody knows how to run. You're a coach. You can coach them on running. You don't need to bring somebody in and hire somebody and spend more money, because they were afraid that if I did that, it would set the precedent then that they would ultimately need to come up with the money to hire somebody to do it. We went back and forth a bunch of times, and I basically had to, stretch the truth a little bit and basically say, well, I just don't feel comfortable teaching this. I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt. I don't want to, create any injuries. I need some help. So they allowed me to hire him to come in like as a one-time clinic consultant kind of thing. And he came in, and we had really been working already behind the scenes on creating a program that I would be able to, continue after he was done.
Yep.
But the difference that made in how much more efficiently our kids ran, how much quicker they were. Now, again, in softball, everything happens so quickly that 1/10 of a second or 2/10 of a second seems like forever. And all of a sudden, players were beating out some of those infield hits. They were getting to balls in the outfield that they hadn't been getting to, and it wasn't super complicated, difficult stuff. But just how they pump their arms, what direction their arms are going in, how their turnover is, how quickly they're moving from spot to spot. And as we were working on all these different little drills, with quick steps and, all these different kinds of things, you start to see even the least athletic looking players looking more athletic and moving quicker and moving faster. And so it made a huge difference for us in our straight line speed. So, running down balls in the outfield and, home to first. Also made a huge difference in that first step quickness of reacting quickly to get to balls like in the hole for an infielder or whatever it was.
Explosiveness.
Yeah. And so it was a win-win-win situation. But I think the reason that it's a lost skill or something that we don't emphasize enough is, one, not many of us really have coaching experience with just running as fast as you can. Not very many of us have a track experience kind of thing.
Because everybody knows how to run, Tori, right?
Right. And I kind of, get that, at that time. It's like it took me a little bit to come up with a really good argument for why I still needed this person to come and make us run better. It was like, so I'm a bad coach because I don't know more about running. But now I learned a lot from Will about how to teach running better, so I feel pretty good about it now. But I didn't know a lot of what he had us doing. I didn't understand the importance of it. We had one girl that was, before the program, average, too fast, but nothing exceptional. But she had a couple of things that she did that were just downright counterproductive for her ability to run fast. And just by changing the angle that her arms were pumping at when she was running, she went from average fast to second or third fastest kid on our team.
Awesome.
And it wasn't, nothing else changed. It wasn't like it took months of training. It wasn't like we spent tons of time in the weight room or whatever. It was just, learning how to do a couple of things a little bit differently made a gigantic difference. And so,
in our game, that's pretty huge.
Right. And so all of a sudden now she's running down balls in the outfield that she used to just miss, as you were saying earlier. And that was gigantic. That was, again, one of those players. I've talked about Jennifer Markham a bunch of times. She was one of the catchers that I recruited when I had that really good team at Tennessee Tech that ultimately became the best center fielder I've ever had. Well, she went from being just a step slow and being kind of fast to being really fast and not a step slow anymore. And on top of the fact that her top line, straight line speed was better, she was also quicker getting a jump, getting moving. So again, the whole, how important is running to our game? It's really, really important, but I don't think it's emphasized enough. And part of it I get. From a coach's perspective, we don't want to make somebody feel bad. We don't want to, single, well, Don,
I'm not that quick.
You're slow. We got to do something. You're just too slow. You can't play this position. You're not fast enough. When I played, I was called Tori the Turtle, and it fit. I stretched more triples into doubles than you can count. But now when I think back about it, on top of the fact that genetically I wasn't gifted with much to hang my hat on for being fast, I didn't run well. I didn't run hard sometimes. It's like I just settled for a double because I didn't have the confidence to push myself, try to stretch it out and, get that extra 90 feet. And so, I think it's an easy trap to fall into. So we can figure out ways to push our players to get better at these things without making them feel bad. We don't have to call them pudgy or unathletic or weak or turtle or whatever it is to get these points across. And we can come up with a lot of things that we can work on our own with YouTube and all these different resources now. Everybody can do more to help their players run better. And I think that's got to be the moral of the story today. We owe it to all of them and to our team's success to help them all be a little bit better at that very, very important skill.
We'll make that last catch. We'll beat out that infield hit, and we'll be a little bit more excited about the game. Yeah.
Dan brings up another good point, too, is what we're really thinking about is a lot of this is that straight line speed. Doing ladders and all that kind of stuff is going to help with a lot of things. Again, what's a perfect example? That outfielder that now catches that ball. You watched her before she learned a little bit about running, and every step she took was like shaking the ground. Her head was bouncing all over the place. She had no idea where her eyes were in relationship because it was such a violent thing. All of a sudden, we smooth that out because she's used to running on the balls of her feet and landing a little bit more efficiently and, continuing to, smooth out her running. All of a sudden, she's catching those balls. Now, the speed and agility stuff is also important, too. That's going to help with some of the stuff that we want our players to get better at. But we really want to be better at how do I get from point A to point B as fast as I can, as efficiently as I can, and be in a position where I can make the play when I get there.
So, Tori, as well, too, as we talk about the running piece, and you mentioned it just a second ago about the eyes bouncing in the outfield, we just finished watching the Olympic. Obviously those are world-class sprinters and stuff like that, but when you watch a replay of them, or they're zooming in on those athletes that are running, their eyes and their head almost don't even look, they look like they're just standing there.
Yeah.
And obviously their bodies are going as fast as humanly possible, but their head is really quiet and still. And that's a huge, huge thing for gauging and perceiving a ball that's been hit in the outfield. If your head is bouncing up and down, the ball is bouncing up and down in your vision.
Right.
And it's hard to track, and it's hard to make that catch at the end. And somebody that, it hits the heel of their glove or something and falls on the ground, and you're like, I wonder if I could have helped them a little bit better on that. Because obviously they got there, but it was bouncing so much in their vision that they didn't, make that last little adjustment to catch it in the pocket. And to practice running and looking at something, in the stands or on the fence back behind home plate, if while they're running, they're keeping that smooth and steady and still, then I think that they're going to be a little bit better of an outfielder as well.
Right. Well, and obviously the more your eyes are moving, the harder time they're going to have focusing on anything. And I use this analogy with hitters all the time. Picture yourself riding in the car, going someplace, and you're reading something on your phone, and you hit a big bump.
Yep.
Well, it takes a couple seconds to kind of get your, focus back, to kind of get your eyes back on the screen, to, find the spot that you were looking at, right? And so obviously if my eyes are getting jarred every single step, not so good.
Absolutely.
So coaches, emphasize running. We want to help our players be better at it. We want to work at it. We want to make sure that it's something that we're thinking about in our drills and in our preparation, to make sure that it's a skill that our players can continue to improve upon. So that's going to wrap up number 248. Want to make sure that you reach out to us at everythingfastpitch@gmail.com or fastpitchprep@gmail.com with questions, comments, ideas, or suggestions. Go to the fastpitchprep.com website, order your Square Cuts training discs there. Also, you can watch the YouTube channel and the blog posts. There's tons and tons of information on our website. Make sure you support the Anderson Bat Company, and please go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch and become a patron. So for Coach Don McKinley, our producer Stan Lewis, this is Coach Torrey. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.